Hey, cool. Somebody's here. Who is this? Is it one of us? Oh, no, it says there's 6 people here. Cool. Hey, everybody. If I can see who all is here. Cool. We were talking about it a little bit. We'll try to start at 4 o'clock or well, whatever it is, on the hour, on the dot. It's gonna be a different time for everybody. I know that. So we're in Central Time here in Central U.S. time here in Dallas, and the rest of our team's over on the West Coast, so they're running Pacific. Um, for those of you guys that didn't see it, Modo actually came out with um, a new version yesterday, which is super cool. We're pretty excited to be working with them. We're gonna do some a little bit of partnership with them on doing a couple of different things, so it should be fun. All right, just another minute here. Take a sip of my energy drink. Um, all right, cool. So let's go ahead and get started. My name is Arvin. Uh, I'm with GameTextures.com. We're trying to create I don't know, a little bit more of a fun atmosphere here at as we work. So we thought this would be kind of a fun thing to do on Fridays. Get to hang out with you guys, get to share a little bit of info, get to hear back from you guys as far as all the things that are going on. And anyway, this looks like it should be pretty fun. So the first thing we want to cover this week is I know several of you guys have been asking me about texel density. And so originally I wanted to show some stuff in Blender. We may cover it in Blender as well later on, but today I'll go ahead and show it off in Modo. And the best way to do it here is to show you guys we basically have 4 different texture sheets here. We have a 512 by 512. We've got a 1K, right? We've also got a 2K texture, right? And for each of these, what you can see is that every single one retains its actual letter size. Hey, what's up, New Lab and Gustavo? Good to see you guys. And yes, we are going to cover very much a modular pipeline. So we'll talk about how to build these houses in and to kind of rearrange them in different ways. Um, Hopefully, we'll have enough time to get them nice and textured, but we'll see how it all flows, and we'll get to touch on a little bit of Modo 11.1's new tools. But yeah, so we've got a 512 by 512, we've got a 1K, and we've got a 2K. And as you can see, each one has different tiling repetitions. This is one of the things. These textures actually came out of Blender. I opened up Blender and exported these out. But this is one of the things I love about Blender is it does give these textures that you can generate off the cuff. Um, so in order to demonstrate this textile density, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start off with a simple cube. So I'm gonna build a simple cube in our scene. Oh, sorry. All right, here we go. And this is one of our textures. We'll go over this a little bit later, but we'll start off with just a simple cube in the scene. And what we're gonna do is let's take a look at it with this 512 by 512 texture on it. So I'm gonna switch view mode here to textured, and let's give this a quick unwrap. So I'm gonna go over to UV edit. We'll hit um, project, and we're just going to give it a quick cubic unwrap, right? So basically each face is a 0 to 1 square. Let's hop back over to model. All right, so what you can see is that these letters, A1 to D4, all fit in the face of this cube. Now notice if we switch over to our 1K texture, there's significantly more letters there, as well as those letters are smaller. And then if we switch over to 2K, now they're really small and they're a lot of letters on there. So this is a good way for us to explore texel density. So what you'll notice is the 512 by 512, even though these letters are nice and big and legible at this distance, as I zoom in, it starts to pixelate. Whereas if I switch over to the 1K, right, it's not quite so pixelated at this distance, but if I zoom in even more, then it starts to pixelate. And if I go to the 2K, then it's even sharper, but as I zoom in more and more, it pixelates even more, right? So how do we control that in our scene? Well, let's take this cube, let's duplicate it, Control C, Control V, and let's shift it over to the right. And now let's scale this. And I'm just going to scale from this corner. All right, and I'm just using Modo's Action Center tools. I don't know how many of you are very familiar with Modo, but one of the really cool things that Modo has are these action centers, which basically kind of quickly moves my pivot point to wherever I need it to. So here I moved it to that corner, and I'm going to scale it to 200%. All right, and now what you can see is because it has the same texture applied, now we've got a texel density difference, right? Whereas this one, at this point, right, these textures are still really nice and fine. At this distance, because the object is bigger, these textures start to get stretched. If I zoom in even closer, you can see that a little bit more. Here we've still got a fine resolution on these textures. But over here, you can definitely start to see the pixelation. Let me magnify this. So what does that mean, right? So that means if we have an object that's bigger in our scene, we need more texel density. We need a bigger texture to cover it. So this object is exactly twice the size of this initial one. So what we need to apply to this one is this 1K texture. And so notice now it's a lot finer. Now this one it's very fine. So what I'm going to do is so we can see the difference between the two. I'm just going to assign a material to this. So I'm going to hit M to assign a material, and I'm going to make this a 512 by 512. So I'm just going to call the material 512. Right? Go ahead and delete this material node, and I'm just going to drop this 512 by 512 texture in there. Right, so now this object has a permanent 512 by 512 texel. Now this one, I'm going to select the new one, and I'm going to call this one 1K. So again, we're going to delete this, and let's drag and drop this 1K into this 1K material. So now what you notice is this smaller one has a 512 by 512 texture, whereas this larger one, sorry, I keep forgetting I gotta turn on Amazon or some sort of music, Amazon Music. I forget my headphones turn off if I don't have any sort of sound feeding into it for a long time. All right, let's listen to Hans Zimmer today. All right. So here, what you can see is that even though this has a smaller texture, this has a larger texture. In seeing them on screen, they look exactly the same size, right? This texture looks the same size as this texture because of the objects that they're wrapped around, all right? And again, if we take this and copy and paste it and then move it again, right? And let's scale this to 4 times the size of the original one. again, initially, right, this has less density. So as we zoom in, right, this is fine, this is pixelated. But if we take this, and again, we assign a new material on it, and let's call this one 2K, delete this material, and assign a 2K material to it, right? Now, they're fine again, right? So how does that relate to when you're actually building game assets? Well, in general, what that means is bigger objects should get either a bigger texture sheet, or B, more texture repetition. Because for example, we could take this object right here, our 1K object. Let's delete the 1K texture. And let's now take this 512 by 512 and let's just duplicate it. Let's move it over there. Right? So right now it's a different density. Let's now take this and this is the texture locator, which basically this is where we adjust wrapping and tiling. Should be where we adjust wrapping and tiling. It's not working. Let me delete this real quick. And I'm just going to grab a new one, a new version of that. Drag and drop it. So now if we take this exact same texture right now, you can see that it's obviously very different texel density, right? Because just imagine instead of these letters, just as a quick aside, so maybe it'll be a little easier to wrap your head around it. Let's say instead of letters, these are bricks, right? So here you've got gigantic bricks, or let's say they're tiles. That'd be easier. Here you've got small tiles, and then here a single tile is twice the size of this tile, right? So it wouldn't really make sense in terms of, the size of your floor, much less the resolution that they're coming in at. But if we take this, right, and then we start to repeat it, so let's go to texture locator and let's repeat this at 2 by 2. I don't know why in the world it's not repeating. It should. Oh, it's because yeah, no, that's correct. Let's go over here now instead to UV edit, right? So we'll just adjust. I don't know what's going on, but we'll adjust tiling here, right? So what we'll do is we'll increase the UV scale 200%. All right. So now what we can see is even though that texture is just repeating, in terms of size, we're talking the same thing, and in terms of resolution, we're also talking apples to apples. All right. If nobody has any questions on texel density, we'll go ahead and move on to actually, oh, I apologize. This is all great if we're making a Minecraft game, right? Because everything is blocks. But we know that there's going to be different assets that aren't blocks. We'll have, everything from cylindrical assets to, I don't know, uh, organic shaped assets. How do we balance those? Well, there may be some sort of algorithms there that do it better, or maybe some artists have some good techniques for it. But for me, I mean, one of the easiest thing to do is just to roughly estimate. Um, you you can't always get perfect, but sometimes if it just looks right, that's enough. So let's take this object. Let's say we take the cylinder, and let's just apply one of these materials to it. So let's apply the 512 by 512. So obviously this is going to be way too too large a texel density, right? So we've got these gigantic letters compared to these tiny letters. So this is very fine detail. This has gigantic washed out detail. The first thing we want to do is make sure we have this proportional in and of itself, because what you'll see right now is just in this single object, we've got, washed out detail, and actually that's not too far. Thought it'd be a lot further than that. But actually, this is a little bit more detailed, the tops are, than the sides. So let's go ahead and pack this first. So let's go ahead and get it at least in the actual object to be have a little bit more consistency in texel density. Oh, and look at this. We've actually got some controls. Check this out. I didn't see these before. So we've got some texel density controls in Modo now, which I gotta check out. This is that just kind of popped up. That's kind of cool. Yeah, so here we go. Get texel density from texture. It says that's a 512 by 512. And what about if we go here? Texel density. That also says it's 512 by 512. And this one, it says it's 512 by 512. That's pretty neat. I gotta look into that, and I'll report to you guys a little bit about more about how that works. I haven't messed with it. Sorry, I got a little carried away there. That's pretty neat. I've been looking for a good, texel density tool. So, all right. But here, just manually speaking, we can just let's go ahead and pack this first. Set this to normalize. Right now it's right. So now the UV sizes, at least in the object, are a little bit better. All right. And now let's go ahead and just kind of compare it between these two. So we can select this. Let's see if we can get. Oh, look at that, texels per meter. So way too small. So let's go ahead and scale these up. Right? Notice those letters are shrinking as we scale it up. Let's also replace this instead of applying a 512 by 512 here. Let's apply our 1K texture. Well, yeah, let's apply our 1K texture on it. So we'll go back here and let's grab 1K. Actually, that. Let's apply a new texture here. We'll call this one barrel. And then we'll add the 1K texture in there. All right, cool. So now what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the size here until it kind of matches this one. And it's pretty close. So let's go ahead and let's just scoot it until it's nice and bumped up into this. And what I can see is it's still way too big. So there's no way to really shrink it anymore, because the only way to shrink those letters is by scaling this up, right? You notice there's not much we can do here. So let's go ahead and maybe apply a 1K texture to this. Or sorry, a 2K texture to this. Right? And then from there, we can actually select this stuff and scale it down until we closely match those letter size. Let's see if now these Modo tools work, these texel density tools. Let's see, get from UV Poly Island. So this is a 2K pixels per meter. Oh, okay, that's all. We got 2K. I don't know. That's really weird. All right, I gotta mess with those a little bit more as we go along. But the idea here, right, is that we're talking. The idea here is we're talking close to the same size in terms of these UV squares, right? Which is keeping them a little bit more accurate. Cool. Well, I know we had a couple of questions regarding texel density. I hope I didn't bore you guys to death. I know it's something that's a little bit more, what's the right word? It's technical, right? It's less flashy, but hopefully that helps you guys that answers some of your questions. Let's go ahead and go on to some of the new features in Modo. One of the biggest one is this Unreal Bridge. So we'll go over that as well as build a couple of different assets. So let's hop over to model. Right, so what we're going to do now is put together some modular assets. Okay, so the first thing we want to do if we're messing with Modo is we want to make sure to set our uh, grid to match Unreal Engine's grid size. So the way we do that is we go to Systems, we hop over to Preferences, and we scroll down to Units, and we want to set units from SI, standard units, to game units, and we want to make sure that meters per game unit is 0.01, right? That'll match us perfectly to Unreal, right? So this way, it's a one-to-one translation. So if we're talking, 200 Unreal units, it would be in our scale here 200 Modo units. So let's go ahead and start building some of those out. So we'll create a cube. And let's start it off at, let's say, 300 by 300 by 300. Okay. And then we want it to sit on the center as opposed to this where it's sitting underneath. So we're going to bump it up along the y-axis 150, right? So that it's sitting right there on the center. Right. We'll also go ahead and let's switch this from textured to just shaded. All right, now let's go ahead and create a simple roof. So we'll hit Shift B for bevel, right? And it adds a little bit of an extrusion, right? And we want it to be maybe 2/3 of our height. So we'll put this at, shift it 200. Now let's go ahead and create a roof. So I'm going to select these two and modeling operations, and I'm going to collapse them. Collapse. There we go. All right, so we now have a roof. I want this to be a little bit higher. So let's move up exactly 50 units. And I also want this to be a little bit wider. So I'm just going to go ahead and split this in half. So I'm going to bevel this so we can get perfect quads. So I just hit B for bevel, which is not working. Let's scale this instead. All right, and then I'm just going to slice this right in the middle. So for slice in Modo, you select an edge and just tap Alt-C, and that adds some slice marks to it. And we'll tone down the slice count from 4 to 1. All right, so now we'll go ahead and widen it up a little bit. So we were at 300 by 300. So let's go ahead and scoot this over maybe another 150 units to the right, maybe just 100. And then we'll go ahead and double click this edge loop to select it, right click and hit split. Now we've split that, double click this, and we'll hit delete. All right, now let's go ahead and mirror this from left to right. So I'll double click it, hit Shift V, and right click to create a mirror along the x-axis. And let's make it snap right there in the center. Right. We can go ahead and wipe this now. Cool. All right, so now let's be a little bit making some adjustments here. Maybe we want to be wider. There we go. All right, cool. All right, so this will be our initial module, right? So we'll go ahead and we'll hop over to items. We'll call this house module 1. Okay, cool. And let's go ahead and hide this. Let's duplicate this and hide it. All right, so I'm going to duplicate it. And we'll call this one our duplication house module 2. And then we're going to hide house module 1. And so for house module 2, maybe it's narrower and generally smaller, right? So we'll scale it down here. And then let's scale it from the bottom. We'll set the action center to the bottom of this object. So let's just say action center, selection, center auto axis. And we'll set the center to the bottom, right? And so that way we're scaling from this point. All right, so the reason I went ahead and started off by making 2 different modules first is to show you guys how these modules work. So let's go ahead and let's turn this one on, and let's select house module 2. So the way it works is now I have this module, and I can set it to crash through this, right? And so it allows me to build these more complex houses, essentially. Without necessarily having to design them. I just have to kind of kit bash them together, right? So maybe I take this down a little bit. All right, and then maybe we have a little piece jutting out here, so we take this. Right? And so it gives us the capability to build these type of structures, right? By just kit bashing different pieces. Let's move this maybe to the back. All right? There you go. All right, so let's go ahead and start, detailing out our kit bash here. So we'll go ahead and let's get house module 1. Let's zero out house module 2. So I'll go ahead and we'll go to edit, center selected, and we'll center, it will be XZ. All right. And so let's detail out this piece right here first. So what we'll do is we'll select this object. We'll select this object, and let's start beveling this out. Right. So we'll hit Shift B, and let's give it a little roof. Right. And then we'll select this edge loop, And we're just going to bevel it in all directions. So I'll hit Shift B again and extrude. Right, so now we've got kind of this little house structure. Now, this isn't going to actually be, in fact, let's not make that quite so strong. So I'm going to select it. I'll hit Shift B and just going to do it maybe that much. Okay, and the that is this is essentially, sorry guys, let me close a couple of things here. It looks like my machine is dying. Right, cool. Cancel. I know. Need some more RAM, something. Um, Let me close out a couple of these. Sorry, give me just a second here. Just got to close out some tabs. All right, I think we're good. Is this upcoming on the tubes as recorded? Yes, it should be. Uh, that's a great question, New Lab. I don't know. I was using 10, and mine didn't copy over, so I just have to set them again. I think you can export them possibly. All right, so now what we'll do is, so this little piece right here, this actually won't be um, the roof. This will be it'll be a wood bracket around it, right? So then we'll slice through, and in fact, let's do that again. We'll slice through, and then we'll move it up a little bit, and now this will be what we extrude, right? So like that, and then we'll do Shift B again, and then we'll push this, right? And so this will actually be our roof, whereas this will just be this right here will be like a frame that the roof sits on. In fact, let's undo that and let's extrude that even more. Jet that out a good amount. Cool. All right. Now what else? And you'll notice I'll constantly look at it from this view because I'm trying to model it in terms of building something out for like a top-down game. So I'm gonna rotate to this view and check that how it looks fairly often, right? So like for example, I created this little frame right there, but maybe it doesn't, it doesn't matter all that much because it's hardly seen at this angle, right? All right. So the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe these edge loops. These are unnecessary, right? Now we'll go ahead and wipe those. So I'm just going to select them and hit delete. Cool. And now we've got a nice flat roof. All right. Next thing we want to do is maybe create some columns here in the corners, right? It's also a good way to hide some of the weird seams or anything like that. All right, so what we'll do is let's grab a cube, untap X, and it's not, X is the hotkey for snapping. Sometimes it's not working, so just clicked over there, and I'm just holding Control and dragging this out, and it's sizing this cube for me. Notice too there on the left hand side, it's adjusting my size X. One of the things to take note of if you're doing something for top down, you want to make it kind of more, I don't know, like it's just bigger in general, the shapes to be bigger, so that it's a little bit more visible coming in from this angle, right? So we'll go ahead and move it up. So I'll select this. There we go. And then let's move this all the way up. Right, that's probably a little too large. So let's scale it. Axis. And let's move it down. All right, cool. And now let's copy it on all four corners. So we'll just hit Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V, and there we go. And so now we've got the four columns there. Next thing we want to do is let's go ahead and create like a beam that comes through, that shoots through right through the middle. Right? So I'm just going to select this piece right here. Control C, Control V, right? And then I'm going to bevel that in order to give it some volume. Let's go ahead and double click it. I'll hit Shift H to isolate it. And I just need to close off this little section. So let's go ahead and pull this out. Pull this one all the way to the back. And again, let's take a look at it from this angle. So let's see kind of what's showing up, what's not. This is definitely good. I'd say let's even just scale it a hair, then drop it a little bit. There we go. Cool, I think that's pretty good. Now let's go ahead and underneath this, right? So for those of you hopefully familiar with, sorry guys, I had to chuckle at that one. Tanner just told me to save. Okay, so that is actually an excellent idea. Let's save this, and I'm just gonna save this as a Modo demo. All right. And for those of you that have any sort of experience in, any sort of housing or construction, you know that we'll need a little bit of foundation here. The other reason for that becomes really useful is because it allows us, when we're working on some sort of terrain, it allows us to set our objects on top of the terrain and not have a weird transition that automatically goes from, ground to whatever bricks or whatever our building is made out of. There's some sort of slab it's sitting on, right? So what we're going to do is we've got two options here. We can either cut it or we can extrude it down. I'm going to go ahead and honestly, I should have thought of this earlier, but I'll go ahead and extrude this down, right? So that gives us a little bit of slab underneath, right? And then I'll wrap around it and I'll bevel it just a hair, right? To give it a little bit of slab that it's sitting on, so it's not it's not gonna be just jammed into the terrain. Let's also maybe extrude this down a little bit. And we're talking, medieval houses, so, the way they're constructed is probably going to be significantly different from modern homes. But, like again, one of the reasons for it also is so that it doesn't feel like it's floating. There's some sort of a transition there. So let's go ahead and tap X. Excuse me. All right, cool. So that's looking pretty good. I do want this roof to be just thicker because I just want it to read a little bit better. So I'm just going to select the section out and I'm just going to extrude it, right? And even though it's not necessarily the most realistic for the type of roof we're having, I just want a little bit more density there. So let's look at it from this angle. And yeah, I think I feel pretty good about that. This one, let's have our slab actually extend past our beams. Good. Yeah, I think that'll work. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll mess with that when we get there. So, I mean, technically it should, but it may not end up looking right as we're sliming down our shapes, right? All right, cool. So, we do have this one. Let's go ahead and do some UVs on it. So what we'll do is we'll have this one as a standard one, and then, sorry, this one also, I kind of want to pull this, just be a little bit longer, right? I just, like I said, sometimes it's not the most realistic, but you do it because it has to read well from the angle you're looking at, right? It has to look, you have to be able to tell what it is at a glance. Um, Same thing with these beams right here. I kind of want to scale them a little bit. So I'm going to set the action center here to, it's going to be, oh man, it's been a while. It is, element screen, origin, parent, local. There we go. Right, and we'll go ahead and just make them a little bit fatter. There you go. Slightly thicker slab. There you go. Right? So everything is just a little bit bigger in order for it to read at our distance and at our distance and our angle, right? All right, so that's pretty good. So we'll have this one variation, right? So we'll call this house module 1, and let's go ahead and give it some UVs, right? And again, let's keep our texel density in mind. So let's hop over to UV edit, and let's go ahead and start giving this some UV. So the first easiest way to give UVs in sorry, I keep seeing the Arvin, please save. Please don't forget to save. Um, let's go ahead, and the first thing we want to do is let's go ahead and do a quick unwrap. So the way Modo is great at this, in that we can select the whole thing. We'll just select project, and we'll select here under create UV. We'll set this to Atlas, and basically it just breaks it up based on angle, right? So this is a great way to get an initial just, hey, I just want to see what's going on. All right. Next thing we want to do is why don't we start with the simple aspects of it. So let's start with the roof. Start maybe with this side and this side. Right? So we'll select this, and we'll hit Shift H to isolate those. All right, let's hit save. And now let's go ahead and actually do a proper unwrap on these. So I'm just going to hit unwrap. Right? Notice they're kind of weird angled. So one quick way, I could either hit orient. So orient will line them up horizontally. Or I actually like to use rectangle now, because rectangle not only will it orient them in the right direction, but it'll also fix any sort of sometimes when you use unwrap, it leaves lines at slight angles. Right? Now, if I take a look at this, let's go ahead and let's switch our texture to this. I don't know, let's do our 512 by 512. Just set it to our 512 so we can see it. All right, so this helps us to see, hey, our this one is upside down. So we'll select this one, rotate it. So I'm just gonna hold Control and uh, rotate it all the way around. Hey, IB, how are you? How are you doing? Or EB, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I apologize. You missed a little bit, but it should all be recorded. So we've just been making some a modular asset here, talking a little bit about texel density and UVs and how it applies. So here now we're going in the right direction. We'll select this one, and we'll just say fit UVs. And when it says fit entire UVs, we don't want that. We want per UV island, right? And it's nice and packed. It's occupying the same space, right? And let's go ahead and just move it back to the ground so that we know exactly what's gonna be uh, lining right here in the bottom. So in fact, we'll wait on that because we've got to. Well, no, we won't. All right. So I'm gonna move my cursor to the bottom of this. So again, we'll go to Action Center, Selection Center Border, Selection Center Auto Axis, and we want to set the axis to the bottom, right? So now we're dragging from that bottom point. Let's go ahead and snap it back to the origin. So I'm going to hit F11, and we want to snap to grid, and there we go. All right. So now those are both lined up nice and well. All right. So now we're going to start to stitch some of these. So let's grab this, 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 this. So basically all of the roof, right? Oh, and let's grab some of the underside too. Actually, no, let's not grab the underside. Okay. All right, and so let's isolate this. So I'm just gonna isolate it by hitting Shift H. All right, so now we've got these two, and what I just the roof, right? And so what I usually try to do is grab that one, Shift H. All right, and so what I usually try to do is I move everything that I'm not messing with out of the way. So I'm going to select these two, and I'm going to invert the selection by hitting open bracket. There we go. And now I'm going to drag these out of the way. All right, cool. All right, and now I'm going to start the stitch. So I'm going to select this edge, right click, move and sew. I want to stitch it to the selected. And that did not work. Oh, because we'll select this edge instead. Move and sew, selected. Oh, sorry. Move and sew to unselected. And there we go, but it's kind of wonky. So I'm just gonna get it kind of close to the shape we need it to be. And there we go, it'll kind of line up there. Let's go ahead and get it nice and organized. Let's also apply this 512 by 512 on it. All right, now we'll grab this edge. Let's hit move and so to selected. And again, it's getting kind of weird. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hide this one side first. Apparently, the computer knew what it was doing. So let's break these apart. So I'm just going to do a quick tear off. No snapping, tear off. In fact, maybe instead of that, I'm going to select these. And I want them to just lay out flat instead of being bent. So I'm going to hit, what is this? Rectangle, right? Cool. All right, and now these will line up a little bit better. Hope. Wow, really? So to selected, it's really not wanting to do it. All right, so again, we'll just kind of scale just to get it close. All right, and then let's just get that there. And then again to selected. Now, at this point, really, it probably would have been faster if I just used a standard unwrap and selected my edges. But this should have been a little bit faster this way. Getting some unexpected errors here. I'm just kind of speeding through this a little bit. Stop me if you guys get lost somewhere and you're a little curious as to what I did or why I did it. Like I said, I'm just trying to speed through this a little bit. So let's do that. And now let's do this side, right? Right. And then I'm just going to tear this off real quick just to attach these. All right. And then we're gonna sew this entire edge right here in the bottom. And that got a little funky. So we're just gonna do some point snapping here. Some point snapping magic. Come on now. Guess. All right. So there's for those of you guys that are familiar with how UVs work, there's going to be some stretching here, obviously, but stretching isn't always bad. It's kind of a little bit of a trade-off in UVs. You got to decide, hey, do you want stretching or do you want distortion, right? And this time, I think we can afford the stretching there or the warping there. as opposed to things coming in at a different angle. Oh, it's almost ready. Oh, cool. All right, cool. Sorry, I was reading some quotes from Shane there. Wasn't sure what those were. All right, so let's go ahead and now let's handle, now that we have the roof taken care of, right? Let's also go ahead and isolate these because we are going to eventually isolate it and assign it its own material. So let's go ahead and isolate this right now, and we'll just say we'll select it, hit M, and we're going to call this roof. There we go. All right, and let's go ahead and just for kicks, let's go ahead and assign the roof, the texture we're going to use for the roof. Right? So that way we can kind of at least, already somewhat visualize it. And I think that looks pretty cool. Right? Obviously, we've got a little bit of an area here that isn't correct. So you notice, I mean, it's just kind of flopping over. So we'll figure out what to add there. I mean, technically, it should be, um, like the layers coming in here. But maybe we can also just extend the beam. Right? I think that actually kind of works. So we'll just extend the beam to go on there. Speaking of that beam, let's go ahead and let's do a little bit of modeling here. Um, number one, these beams right here are, in my opinion, they've gotten a little too thick, although I know we want them to read. So let's switch these to, what are we doing? Local? Yeah. All right. And let's scale them down just a tiny bit. All right. And also, this a cool little modeling trick, right? Is sometimes what you want is just a little bit of variation. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna split these and let's just scale it, right? And we're just gonna kind of rotate these out just a hair. And we're just gonna give these, maybe even slightly bend it. And then let's just jam this through. Again, not really. Well, I shouldn't even do that because it's not going to be visible at this angle. All right. So again, maybe just this. And let's go ahead and give it 4. And again, just some slight noise on it would go a long way. Right? A lot of that, it's going to be handled by your texture, a lot of that detail, right? But just some, maybe let's just scale this one in the middle, that one. Right? Little variations that can go a long way. Yeah, just little things, right? Um, for example, here, right? Let's say even wanted to go. I don't necessarily want it to go all the way around. Um, but if we just here, even if it's just like, let's actually slide the UVs here. So hit slip UVs. Just kind of a little bit. You know, also, I'm not gonna mess. Actually, I'm not gonna mess with this one right now. But you know, we could do something here where um, just as a demonstration, although I don't want to mess with it too much, right? Where we give some little sections here and basically, you know, just give it some slight jolts. Kind of just vary that up. Or even better, really, is to add some shapes jutting out of here that we have UV mapped. But you know, like I said, just little things that could really add to the way these look. All right, so there's that. Let's go ahead and get to the walls. All right, so here we go, and let's uh let's go ahead and fit them. So we'll hit fit UVs per UV island. Right, we got them nice and packed, and let's go ahead and let's move these out of the way. And then we'll stitch them here on the sides. Uh, Back. Let's go ahead and tear these off. All right, so now we've got them rolling all the way through. All right. Let's go ahead and check texel density. So we'll select it all. Let's assign this again a 512 by 512. And let's just see how they compare, right? My opinion, that looks pretty close. You know, definitely, uh, you know, manageable, right? It's not something that's going to be uh, significantly obtrusive or anything like that. All right, so now let's go ahead and grab, let's say the base. Oh, and let's grab this UV set and let's assign this to a material. So I'm going to hit M, right? So we're going to create a new material. This time, let's go ahead and call this wall. And I forgot to do this, but for the type, let's set this to Unreal Material. All right, so there we go. And then this one, we'll just go ahead and delete this. We'll copy and paste that, duplicate that. Eight. All right, cool. So now, how about we handle these wooden beams? Right? And we'll assign them all beam. And this one, let's break it up a little bit. And again, let's unhide that. And then let's go ahead and do some unwrapping here. All right, so for the unwraps here, these are kind of easy. We'll just select the inner edge. We'll do a straight kind of a old school unwrap where we actually select our cut lines. All right, cool. So now we've got some good edge cuts. Let's hit unwrap. All right, and then, oh, we need the top one too. Forgot about that one. And let's select maybe one of these bottom ones to unwrap on. We could also create an extra cut line there, but I don't think, because of our angle, it's not going to matter too much. We'll select all of these, and this is kind of weird. I do want them all kind of lined up. So rectangle won't work. So it's strange. I have to tear these off. And then I'll have to restitch them later. All right. So this one, rectangle, and then stitch it. Yeah, it's probably not that big a deal. These aren't too warped or anything. But I don't know. Sometimes I guess it's my own OCD. Rectangle, moving so. All right. Okay. Tear that. Let's go ahead and tear all of these out. All right, man. Have a good night, Paul. Thanks for swinging by. Rip all these off. All right. So let's grab all these. All right, cool. Let's hit rectangle. All right. Now let's restitch these. All right, I'm just grabbing these edges. I mean, it's pretty simple. Right. Be a lot faster too if I had my shortcuts set up and if I had Seneca's tools here. Like I said, I think somebody was asking earlier how to adjust the shortcuts, and I don't how to carry over shortcuts, and I don't really know. I think you can export them, preferences and stuff. All right, so here we go. Let's zoom out. This is pretty good. Again, let's assign these 512 by 512, and this will let us also get them right side up. Or are they two of them? Oh, it looks like maybe I accidentally duplicated all of these. All right. So it's hard to see the letters right here. I'm going to select them and I'm just going to scale them up real big. All right. This way we can kind of see where the letters are. So these are facing the right way. This one is upside down. This one is upside down. Cool. All right. So and I mean, to be honest, let's see. This is coming in at 512 by 512. Let's go ahead and switch these to a 1K. Right. So let's hit M, 1K texture. No, now that I think about it, yeah, let's keep it at a 512 by 512 because we're going to assign just a single tileable to these. And actually, that single tileable is going to be relatively large as far as its texel size. Let me see if I can pull it up here as far as what it actually looks like. Open a browser real quick and let's go to GameTextures.com. Materials. All right, and I'm going to switch this over and I'm just going to search distressed wood. By the way, quick way to, so here, as you can see, it's kind of it's close up on the wood, and so we're gonna have to make a tile a couple times. Um, and I don't really want to lose some of the texture quality, so I don't want to zoom in any closer than, or I don't want my texture sheet to be any lower than a 512 by 512. Um, so that just kind of gives me some things to think about because I want it to 512 by 512, it'll scan this, it'll basically cover this entire area. And I probably want it for these pieces of wood to at least double. So that's something that I'm going to have to consider as I'm working. Or I may just try to do a 256 by 256. We'll see if that gives us enough pixel resolution. Um, the other thing I wanted to cover while we're on the site real quick here is for those of you that have been interested in game textures in the past and you guys have been a little worried about, I don't want to do another subscription. We've been talking about it over the past few months and we now have a um, credit packs. So you don't have to commit to a monthly membership in order to get started. You can just pick up, a credit pack that's billed $19 one time, pick up your 30 textures, and then you don't even have to cancel. It's just once you purchase it, there's no recurring bill. You can use the textures, and then when you decide you want some more, just purchase some more texture packs. So just kind of a quick little aside there as far as things that are going on with game textures. All right, let's unhide everything. All right, so now we've got the roof, the wall. Last thing we want to do is the base. Oh, really? Hit us up, New Lab, if you have some more issues with it. I mean, it should be fine. I've used it in Painter a couple times. Are you sure it was specifically that one? And it wasn't like just something else called distressed wood? Oh, it could be. If you're trying to do it in no 30 downloads in general. So it's going to be 30 downloads and then whenever the 30 downloads are done, so you have those 30 downloads until you use them. right? You have a year to use them, but I imagine you'd run to 30 downloads after a year. And then after that, if you want some more downloads, then you purchase more. So it's a lot more similar to just going to the store and buying something and it not being based on a subscription. Yeah, I was gonna say 4K is it does get a little hefty, new lab, as far as um as far as being taxing on memory. Let me go ahead and get these. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna select this and I'm gonna hit unwrap, right? And then I'm gonna hit rectangle. There we go. So this will be like our slab, and then we'll hit fit UVs. Yeah, the 32 gigs of RAM is probably good, and they're always looking to optimize stuff. So um, we're gonna assign this a 512 by 512 again, and let's just kind of see uh, how big this gets. So let's scale let's scale it up here, and let's wait till we can actually see some letters. And remember, we just want to match the roof. That's about right. These I can tell are a little too fine, so we're gonna take these and shrink them down a little bit. Oh, I think that's about good. Okay. Cool. All right, so we're about done here. So we're gonna have this version of it, and then let's go ahead and let's create a another one. Let's duplicate it, and for the duplicated one, oh wait, one more. These are fairly hidden, actually. You know what? Let's move on because I don't want to take too long on this. I want to make sure to get to some of the texturing, right? Um, let's create a variation of this with a window. So I'm gonna take these and let's just Shift D or Control D, right? So this is gonna be house module 1 dash windows. All right, and let's isolate this one. Right, and let's go ahead. Let's switch this back to simple shaded. And let's just add 2 windows here. Cool. And I think, hope at least, that I can, may not, this may break it. Oh, nope, good. So I'm going to collapse this, right? And I'm going to collapse up to here. And same thing here on the bottom. Collapse these. and then here at the top. Right? And then here along the sides, all right, cool. And I mean, honestly, one of the things I've thought about here is it would have been better to Boolean it. But like I said, Seneca's tools didn't, I don't know, it's there, but I haven't set it up. And so whenever I Boolean stuff, that tends to be what I like to use. Um, it'd probably be even better to just get rid of this, right? And I could get rid of these. Again, right here. All right, not bad. It kept it, for the most part, pretty clean, with the exception of, actually, with no exception. It's all pretty clean. And then here, let's just get rid of these. There we go. All right, so not bad. Cool. All right, so we've got two versions of this now. We've got one with a window, we got one with no window, and then we have this second one, which we're not going to get to today. All right, let's go ahead and start assigning this stuff for textures, and let's shoot it over into the Unreal Engine. All right, so let's see. Let's get some textures over in first. So I already have some of the textures picked out. Let me just show you guys in the store where I'm grabbing them. Let's hop over to the Game Texture Store, hop over to Materials, All Materials. Blender is cool. I use Blender as well. We're gonna do some coverage on Blender probably in the next couple of weeks. So, we're fans of Blender also. Um, that being said, they all have their little areas. We love Modo, also like Blender. Yep. All right. So let me show you guys where to get the uh, um, the roofs. So this is going to be the roof that we grab. It's going to be this not flat, but it's going to be the thin. This one, narrow, uneven wood shingle old. So this is the roof we'll pick up. And then for our wall, we're grabbing. Oh man, older one. It's going to take a while to find it here. It's an older material, but it's an awesome one. It's by Guy. Um, also, sorry, I'm trying to read through some of the chat boxes. And then as far as the wood, we're going to use distressed wood. Um, and then I'm not sure what we'll use as far as the base, maybe some sort of concrete. So let's take a look at concrete. See what we got here. Maybe it's got to be a little older looking. Maybe we'll use some of the stucco. Let's see how that works out. I wanted to grab the stucco. This is one I built a while back for one of our friends, and I haven't actually had a chance to use it. So hopefully my machine doesn't die here. All right, folder. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and let's start assigning some materials here. So we'll go to shading, right? And let's go ahead and get rid of all of our, well, let's just minimize them. Our, basically our little base textures that we were using to, evaluate texel density and everything. All right. And again, yeah, I really want to see how this texel density tool works. I mean, I could imagine this thing if, if it works out really well. I mean, I could imagine this being. Yeah, it does. Look at that. Check this out. So I took this one and I hit texel density, get from polygons. This is at 86. And this is at 83, which means, hey, I'm right in that ballpark. It's not bad, right? 90. Okay, so it's still playing around that same area, which means it's going to be usable. So this is a really cool tool. I think maybe in the future, maybe we'll do a continuation of this, and we'll use that texel density tool to evaluate. That looks incredibly useful, quite frankly. All right, let's go ahead and let's assign some textures here. So I'm gonna delete this one. This is one for testing I made, and let's go ahead and add some. Yeah, it really does. I mean, that's God. I mean, it used to be that UVs were the bane of, you know, artists' existence, and now, I mean, now we've got some pretty good UV tools. And I wouldn't say textile density is the bane, but man, it's hard to mess with. And you want to get it accurate and you want to get it spot on. All right, so let's go ahead on with roofs. And like I said, we're using that one roof. I've already downloaded them. And for those of you guys that love the Substance Engine format, we do too. Uh, but there's sometimes that because of sometimes because my machine is way too slow and I don't have enough RAM and it crashes it, I'll still prefer to use bitmaps. So what my typical workflow is I'll mess with stuff in Painter, sorry, in Player, and I'll go ahead and make all the adjustments I need. So I'll adjust, wood glossiness. I'll add, bird poop as much as I want, you know, and then I'll export it out and actually use bitmaps. So that being said, let's go ahead. I've built the bitmaps already. So um, let's go ahead and maybe I haven't on this roof though. So let's go ahead and grab that roof. Let's grab it from the site. You know, I do. I That's really all I need to do. My machine is a little old anyway. It's still on DDR3, so I'm kind of hoping it'll hold up for a little while longer. I'm wanting to build myself a Ryzen machine. So, but let's go ahead. We'll grab this. Some of these look really fun to try. To be quite frank, I wanna continue to build out the toolkit. I almost want to kind of keep going and do another one next week or something. This looks like this is a lot of fun. Um, but and just do a couple of different roof types. But let's Matt did a great job on this. Matt's not here this week, um, but he did an incredible job on these mats. So we're gonna grab. Let's just go to all materials. All right, so let's grab this narrow, uneven wood shingle old, and we're gonna grab a substance here, and we'll hit download. All right. So this way I can show some of this workflow too. So I'll go ahead and show in folder. By the way, for those of you guys that absolutely hate having to download and extract and whatever else, we are building. We now have a tool called Injector. Only it's only working in Unity and Substance Painter right now. But we just got an awesome guy on the team that's working to expand it to, I don't know, Modo, Unreal, wherever else, that our heart's desire is to put our materials on. So it should be pretty cool. All right, so here's the uneven wood shingle, right? Let's just what we don't, yeah, sure, bird poop. We want small bird poop, more of it, more bird poop. All right, uh, less of it, maybe stronger. All right, whatever. All right, so or in fact maybe more of it, but less opaque. Cool. All right, so now let's go ahead and let's export this out. We'll hit export as bitmap, right? We'll put this as a roof. And then we only want certain maps. We want base color, normal, roughness. Yes, we do want AO, and for this one we do want height. Okay, so let's hit export. Let's hit close. Close this up. And let's go ahead and grab the roofs. So we'll grab base color, normal, roughness, AO. And let's dump all of that here in our roof. All right, and now we'll have to kind of change up what, delete the second base color. We'll change up what these are. So this is going to be the Unreal base color. This is going to be the Unreal normal. And it'll ask you this question every time. And for this one, we say yes. And then this is going to be the Unreal roughness. And this will be Unreal AO. All right. And let's go ahead and hit save. And let's take a look at this in Modo's viewport, which they released the last time, but I've heard it's had some significant speed ups. So we'll switch over to advanced. Yeah, Modo's been really great. When I was a student, I picked up a seat of Modo as a student, and then afterwards, I just paid the price of an upgrade. I don't know if they still do this, but I paid the price of an upgrade, and basically they upgraded me to a pro license. For some reason, it's not selecting that entire section. So let's get that part selected. M, set it to roof. There we go. Oh yeah, that's right. There's two of them here. So we'll hide this one. All right, and now let's go ahead and let's take a look at this in the advanced viewport. There we go. Pretty cool. All right. So let's go ahead and what else do we have? Which section else? We have the wall. So let's go ahead and grab the wall textures. Grab base color, AO, normal, roughness. All right. And this one will be Unreal base color, Unreal normal, yes. And then Unreal AO, right? And then again, yeah, I really need to get Seneca's tools back. This selection would be so much easier if I was using it. Set this to wall. And there we go. This feels upside down to me. So, oh, I guess that's right. Okay. All right, cool. And now let's assign some for this one also. Assign it to wall. Oh, no, that's going to be a window. Apologize. All right. And then let's get the wood areas. Right? And then we'll hit M, type in wood. And let's go ahead and grab those. So we'll grab this distressed wood, we'll grab base color, ambient occlusion, normal roughness again. Drop it in. Cool, and then again, we'll assign these to Unreal base color, Unreal normal, always yes. Yes to all messages like this one. Roughness and AO. All right, not bad. Cool. Right. So lastly, let's give this base a little bit of stucco. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to. I think Blender and V-Ray both have some sort of input-output stream, as well as I mean, obviously there's USD, so I'm curious to see where that whole thing goes. Cool. And looks like this is one of my older ones. I didn't give this one a lot of control. So I'm just going to desaturate it just a hair and maybe darken it a little bit. It's an older type of material. Let's go ahead and export it. And for this one, I'm just going to put it under stucco. And let's do base color, normal, roughness, height, AO, and height. Close. Close this. All right, and then let's go ahead and let's assign something here. We're going to call this one base. And let's grab, drag and drop those two things. So we'll go stucco. All right, so base color, normal, ambient occlusion, and roughness. All right, fun. Okay, so now we've got nice, decent stucco on the bottom. Cool. And again, we're going to be evaluating it from this angle. So this will give us a little bit of a frame of reference on how we're viewing it. All right, so cross your fingers and let's hope that Unreal does not die. So we're going to go ahead and hop into Unreal. And I think we'll be probably wrapping up shortly after. And again, we're just going to try to continue this maybe in a different setting, right? So this is actually pretty cool. I really enjoyed this. Um, so let's go ahead and let's pop open. Why are the UVs red? Or does that mean something else in Modo? Usually when the UV is red in Modo, it means that there's something on top of it or it's stacked. It's there's something overlapping. I don't know why these are red because they shouldn't be. There's nothing overlapping. Except for because there's two of them. There's house module 1 and house module 2. So that's probably why it's showing it as overlapping. So with house module 1, it doesn't have windows, you know, and house module 1 with windows. So I think that's what it is. All right, so let me pull up this project real quick. And this way too, you guys can kind of see what some of the results are and what maybe we can go over in future tutorials and stuff. This was really cool. I really enjoyed messing with this material. Matt's new materials this year have been really awesome. Um, hey, come on now, Unreal, don't fail me, but you probably will. Oh, cool. Thank you. Yeah, this is the one by Guy. Yeah, I want to do a series more of a. No, it's not this one. There was a different one. It's an older one. Or not older one, but it's just a different one. Um, so I can say, but yeah, I kind of want to create a series of stuff like this again, like medieval style bricks and stuff. We actually this one's really good too. This one could have worked here. No, I'm running out of RAM already, and I just turned it on. Let me see. Maybe I can turn off. Uh, really? All right. Am I still here? Can everybody still hear me? I'm closing Amazon now, so if I suddenly crash here for a second, just bear with me. Hello, hello. Um, all right. So hopefully you guys are seeing this, hearing this. I'm I think I'm gonna keep YouTube off while I do this. Just wanna make sure we can get through it. Let me see. Okay, good, awesome. So Tanner just told me that you guys can see and hear me. So um, yeah. Well, it broke, but let's go ahead and let me reopen that scene, and hopefully we can also get Unreal going here. All right, so here's our current object. Let's switch this over to advanced again. So here's kind of what we're trying to get in. And I think I'm not gonna double click. I think last time part of what did me in was I double clicked on that little, yeah, on the editor 2 times, and once was, I guess, more than enough. Now that I'm looking at this too, I wanted to create a little bit of bowing here in the ceiling or in the roof. So one cool thing is the slip UV, right? Allow you to kind of tweak the UV going along. Should be coming up. I think should be. Yep, it says Unreal Engine booting up. So there it is. Okay, sorry. Okay, here we go. So we're let's see, Unreal should be going now, any day now. I may have to end up asking Tanner for that RAM. Maybe if you guys buy like how many, somebody was asking me how many texture packs so that I can get some more RAM. um, let's see, goodness. Yeah, 91%. We're almost there, guys. In the meantime, let's do something here so neither you guys or I are getting bored. Um, one thing I was thinking about here is maybe I can just duplicate this since I don't want to reassign all of these, right? Let's see if I can get a quick. Let's see if I can possibly just get a quick variant on this with no windows without um, without doing anything too complex. Let's see. Uh, let's use one cool tool that Modo has is this. If we go to vertex, we've got this drag weld. No, not working. All right, so I'll have to actually do 1 point at a time. And let's switch this to shaded real quick. I don't know why there's a get that close. Then let's just drag, drag, drag. Like a seems like there's a second or a vertex here or something. Some sort of bad geometry. All right, let's see if Unreal booted up. All right, cool. Here we go. So we'll go over now and we'll switch over to, let's open that level. So I just kind of want to show you guys what that ended up looking like. So we've got this cool like little small village, right? And we've basically just had this house duplicated and instanced and manipulated. But we've also got this cool ground mat, which is just based off of one of our materials. And basically we created different variations for vertex paint. So this is another one I can go over too. But basically we've got this cool thing to come in, right? And basically blend between, right? So we can get some mud. And notice this is really cool because we've got some really nice consistency because they're basically based out of the same material. So the grass is falling in exactly the right place, and you don't have to do any sort of crazy height blend, right? Because since the material is based off of the same one, um, based off of each other, the grass will terminate exactly in the same place for either the mud or the grass variation, which is, in my opinion, super cool. So, so anyway, yeah, this was a really neat thing, kind of something I discovered of. I didn't realize this about our materials before because I hadn't, we work so much in actual material production. Sometimes, we don't use them as much in actual like level or environment production. But this was really neat. This was I was really happy with the way this turned out. All right, so let's hop back over into Modo. Right, we can talk a little bit about. Let's go ahead and hide this, right? And we'll look at the one with the windows right now. All right, and let's again switch over to um, advanced. Right. So the cool thing now, right, is we have this one object, and this is the thing I really wanted to get to show you guys today about Modo, is we can select this object, and in Unreal we have this new thing called the Unreal Bridge. So if we click on Modo Bridge, hit Settings, and hit Connect to Server, right, we can close this. This creates a live link between Unreal and Modo. The cool thing that Shane was actually telling me the other day is not only does this create a live link between you and between your Modo file and your Unreal file, this creates a live link between um, an Unreal file somebody else in your network is working on and your Modo file. So, for example, if say Tanner is working on a level layout and he decides he needs a new asset to it, he's like, hey Arvin, can you please send me some grass over? I can model up some grass in Modo, hit the bridge button, and send Tanner some grass, and he can start laying it out in Unreal, right? At the same time, if I decided, hey Tanner, I wanted you to send me back one of the buildings. I want to replace one of the textures. He can just select the building, hit push in Unreal, it'll send it back to me in Modo. I make the edits and then I shoot it back out to them. So it's a really cool tool. So far, I've only used it locally, so that's all I've had experience with it in. But the idea of it seems incredibly awesome. So I'm gonna hit Unreal Bridge. I'm gonna hit Start, and then I'm just gonna hit Selected Items here. Right? And what you'll see is as soon as this thing is live, I'll switch over here to uh, Modo, and here is my object. Now notice the scale is different. I wasn't really checking scale on these when I built them. So what I'll go ahead and do is I'll just create a new level real quick here so we don't have to look at the little tiny things there in the background. So I'm just gonna hit select the default, right? Let's select this ground. And again, we'll come up here and let's just go ahead and hit Unreal Bridge. Let's send the selected item and let's hop over. And notice it's here. Now, this texture that it's applying is not actually the texture coming out of uh, Modo right now. This is one that I built before, and it's just remembering what the names were. But notice the pillars aren't there, and neither is the base. So let's go ahead and send those over. So I'll hop over back into Modo. I'll hit the Unreal Bridge, and I'm going to select those textures. So I'll go over here to shading, and let's go to let's actually send all the textures. So we'll go to Unreal Bridge, and let's just hit send all the textures over. So it gives me a little dialog that says it's sending it all over. I hop back into Unreal. It reads all of the textures in. It takes a minute. I mean, there's a lot of textures there, so we have to give it a minute. Also, of course, RAM becomes pretty crucial here. And then we hop back, and let's say we want to send all the materials now. So let's just select, let's select base, wood, and wall seem to have an issue in beam. So let's shoot this over, and we'll just say, selected materials. And let's hop back over to Modo. And it takes a minute, right? It says it's compiling shaders. But basically, the idea is it's sending all of those materials over. Now, for materials, right, I think it still has some things that it needs to do. For example, I mean, if you're working with materials in Unreal, you do want them to be whatever you call it, like instanced, right? Plus, on top of that, you have certain materials that are working one way or the other. So there's some tricks to it, but I mean, overall, it's just such a cool thing that it's doing. I guess Tanner just told me that you guys are losing my voice. I think this is. All right, so I heard that you guys are losing me a little bit here. Um, it's taking a while for Unreal to build these shaders. All right, so I'm gonna wrap it up here in a second. I think my machine is getting exhausted. So, uh, but like I said, so right now it's compiling the shaders into the Unreal Engine, right? Hopefully you guys can actually hear this, and this will clear up in just a second. All right, cool. So here it is inside the Unreal Engine, right? Let's go ahead and add a couple of things here. Let's add a skylight, right? That way we get some of those super harsh shadows out of the way. And let's hit a uh, reflection capture. All right, cool. All right, so here it is now inside of Modo. Now, what we can do now is hop back over into, probably should have put a beam right here as well. I'll hop back over um, into Modo real quick, and I'll show you guys one last feature, and then I think we can wrap it up for the day, right? But the cool thing here is I can actually select this, right? And I can hit Shift D to create an instance. And let's just say I build it, say right here, and let's say I rotate it, and let's just move it over. And I wouldn't usually do this, but let's just say I scale it, right? And the reason I wouldn't scale this is because it it you notice it'll change the texel density between one object and the next. So it makes it a little inconsistent. So ideally, also notice the floor, right? So ideally, what we would do here is actually create smaller variants of this and use that to kit bash. But just to kind of show it off, we could create something like this, right? And then select this again, and let's hit Shift D. Grab this very last one. All right, and now we can actually take, let's group these three, right? And now we can actually take this group and let's hit Unreal Bridge, and we'll just say selected items. And now let's hop back over into Unreal. Come on now. Probably needs the come on now. Let's say oh, there it is. It's actually, look, it's actually here in the scene. It's just for some reason, oh, because I didn't export this as well. So I'll select the main the parent item as well as the children, and then we'll say all items. Oh, selected items. Right, we'll see. All right, and there we go. Right. So here's the object in Unreal. So now we can come over here back into Modo, and if you wanted to, we could take this whole thing. Let's group this, right? And we could duplicate it with the hierarchy. So we could select